Also, something else that you can take note of that will help your gun. This is the new bolt, right? And you can see there's a difference between the two. Okay, I'm gonna put them side by side, right? From there it looks the same until you look right here, right? You see that the old bolt had this stem right here that would go all the way to the rear. Okay, the new bolt has the plastic nozzle that only goes up to right here, right? So you basically have this space that does nothing. Okay. Now, one of the things that I do appreciate more with the closed bolt is that this is made of steel. It's very much heavier. Right? You can tell, just you see the color difference. One is painted and one one's, you know. And this one's almost like a pot metal. I haven't had any problems with this, except that where I have the hammer, when the trigger is fired and this thing goes back and it hits the roller ball of that hammer right here, and it's caused an indentation. Now, this is after about 15,000 rounds, right? So, you know, it's been okay so far, but, you know, over some time, I'm probably going to have to replace it. With the open bolt, the stock FPS of this nozzle is about 420 to 440, depending on your temperature, okay? So for those of you playing in the United States and playing in areas that their FPS is about 400, you will need to get some sort of gas restrictor, whether it be an RA Tech end pass or you jerry-rig your own. I've done that in the past to get it below 400. So keep in mind, that's something you'll have to do. With the WE, this handle right here, this charging handle, is a real steel one. So for those of you wondering whether you can use some of the real steel parts on your WE, this is one of them. You can definitely use a real steel charging lever without any kind of modifications, okay? Now, you can definitely use other stuff in types of the gun. I've heard of people using real receivers. I've heard people modifying bolts, okay? I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying without modification, you can use the charging handle, a real steel charging handle, okay? All right, so here's the new the bolt release, okay? It's very similar to the old one in terms of putting them side by side, and you can kind of see, right? The differences that I noticed, though, is you can see at the top, right? One is rounded, and one has a sharp tip right there, okay? All right? Now, I found that this is a lot more reliable to use with the open bolt. It's made of steel too, and so far, now that's not to say that this doesn't have its problems as well. Now, as you can see, this whole area is in charge of when you're out of rounds, was supposed to, it'll engage and then be pushed back like this way when looking back if this is the barrel pointed at me. And then the bolt will hit this part, and that's supposed to lock it back. Over time, this will begin to wear down. Okay, so and then you'll have a rounded edge. And over time, that rounded edge will allow your bolt to skip past it, even when you're out of rounds. And that will then, in a sense, you'll be dry firing. Okay, to remedy that, what you can see if you look inside, mine's kind of shiny right there. That's because I've grinded it down, sanded it down to give it a nice edge, a nice flat edge, right? And that'll allow your bolt to lock back, okay? So just to do a quick demonstration, you know, put the magazine in, right? Pull the charging handle back, and it locks back, right? So that's what it's supposed to do. Maybe put a round or two, lock back, lock back, okay? So that's good. And that's after about 15,000 rounds of using the open bolt system, okay? Now, going down to the lower receiver, now this is where things get a little bit interesting, and some parts that you might want to have on hand, okay? Now, inside here, I have this cover that goes over the valve knocker part, okay? This cover I found when the trigger hits this part over and over again, it begins to wear down, okay? Now I have this part, the same part right here, a spare one, what happens is that trigger hits this like that over and over again. And over time, these little prongs right here you'll get cracks that deform across and then eventually break off. This one I've had inside hasn't done that yet, but that's why I have about 5 of these in my garage, so I can when it does happen, I'll change it out. This is a very cheap part. It only cost me about $3 to do. So keep that in mind. You might need a few of these. Okay, that'll allow you keep your valve knocker in place without going too far into your trigger assembly area. All right. Now, what I did notice is that after this action, okay, after your trigger does this about 15,000 times, right? I'm just giving a rough estimate. What's going to happen is that your internals, because unfortunately the trigger assembly, the sear, the trigger, the hammer are not, the stock ones that W gives you are not made of steel. They're made of pot metal, lack of a better word, you know, zinc, some kind of magnesium alloy, whatever, you know. So, okay. So what you're going to find out from about at the 15,000 round count is that when you go to fire and you press your trigger, you're going to get a burst. Whether it's going to fire 2 rounds or 3 rounds depends upon how worn out your trigger and your hammer are. Right? There's an edge where they make contact, and after that edge gets worn down sometimes it begins to slip. It won't reset until you let go of your finger, then it'll stop. Right? Traditionally, if you just hold down the trigger on semi, it won't fire anymore. Well, that won't happen anymore because your triggers, your internals are worn down. What's interesting is what I found out is that when those got worn down, I got curious and I was like, well, I opened it up and looked, and I kind of looked at the hammer, the sear, the trigger, and they looked very much identical to my old ones. And I had some spare RA Tech closed bolt lower receiver parts. And I was like, kind of interested, and I was like, well, let me try it. So what I have here is a hammer, the trigger, sear inside here, and these are meant for the closed bolt M4 AWS system, right? So as you saw me fire it already. So for those of you that are wondering that, you know, is there a difference? There's not. They both work, right? So in reality, all you need to, if you really wanted to convert your gun to an open bolt system, would be you need the new bolt, okay? You need the new hop-up assembly chamber, new barrel, and you need the new bolt release. Everything other than that, you can keep your old internals and it'll just be fine, you know. So I don't know, for those of you that have that parts and you know you don't want to spend the money, you know, you can do that way, help you out. You know, why WE decided to do that both ways, I don't know, but I mean, just to show you guys that it works, you know, those are my things. And you know, I just turned off the bolt lock just to dry fire so you guys can see. And it works just fine. See? So anyway, that's pretty much it. That's all my my insight on this thing. Hopefully that's helpful for you guys. If you guys have any questions, just leave a comment in the comment area. And as always, I'm not absolute. I'm always trying to learn stuff, and I'm just trying to get some insight and giving you guys, maybe you guys have some issues with your guns. Maybe you want to have to perform a little bit better. So hopefully that helps you guys out. Anyway, so guys, I hope you guys have a happy New Year so far. So thanks for watching, and God bless.